Namaskar, good afternoon. Today I am going to talk about how to invest in mutual fund using the core versus satellite approach. Now, in this core versus satellite approach of investing, we believe that there are two groups of mutual funds to be created in which you will invest. One group of mutual funds will be called core, core, and the other group of mutual funds will be called satellite group. Now, as you know, that core is something around which the satellite moves. If the earth is the core, then satellite moves around the earth. The same way, in our mutual fund portfolio, the core portfolio will remain solid, will remain, you can say, fixed for a long time, and will create a foundation of our investment. While the satellite portfolio will be something that will be more dynamic in nature, which will keep changing. And what is the reason for dividing the mutual funds into these two groups? Let's go into that. Now, when we talk of the core portfolio, it should have the mutual funds which will basically invest in all types of companies and in all the sectors. For example, mid cap, small cap, large cap, or pharma, or you can say manufacturing, or you can say banking, or you can say financials, or any other sector. The mutual funds in which you invest, and these mutual funds which are supposed to be invested under the category of core, are expected to provide risk adjusted returns in long run without any constraints of investment thesis. For example, the fund manager of such funds should not have any constraint that he should only invest in pharma fund or he should only invest in small cap fund. So based on his free flow style or her free flow style, and according to the market conditions, he or she is supposed to provide you the best risk adjusted returns. The best benefit of this type of funds are that these are all weather friends. These are all weather funds. You really need not change them with time. For example, if pharma starts doing well, these funds will be expected to invest in pharma more. If banking does well, then these funds will have little bit of more weightage in banking. But at the same time, these funds are also expected to remain invested in a diversified manner. So basically they don't chase any particular theme, and that's why they are called all weather funds, because they do not really try and time the market to chase any particular type of momentum, etc. Now, which types of funds can be considered under the core category or core group? So for that there are 4 to 5 types. Number one is large cap funds. In large cap funds, generally the mutual fund manager or the fund manager invests only in large cap companies which are generally part of Nifty 50 or Sensex 30, companies which have market capitalization in terms of top 100 companies. I mean, if you say that there are 5,000 companies listed in the market, then out of these 5,000, the top biggest 100 companies in terms of market capitalization, these 100 companies are these 100 companies form the universe in which the fund manager will invest. So there will be very big names here. Now this is not a kind of suggestion of investment, but what type of companies in which do these funds invest? So for example, Reliance, or for example HDFC Bank or ICICI Bank. So these large cap funds are very stable compared to other types of funds like mid cap funds or small cap funds. The risk is also less, but then because the risk is less, their in return potential is also relatively capped. So this type of funds should be part of your core portfolio. The other type of fund which are slightly more riskier but may also provide little bit of more returns compared to the large cap funds are called flexi cap funds. In flexi cap funds, the fund manager can invest in all types of companies, in all size of companies. He can invest in a large cap, mid cap, small cap, pharma, across the sectors like manufacturing, etc. So flexi cap funds generally invest up to 70 to 80%, depends on which type of flexi cap is there, but still I have observed that by and large most of the flexi cap funds in the Indian market invest up to 70 to 80% of their money in large caps only. To add to returns a little bit more, they invest around 15%. Once again, depends on the flexi cap fund, but around 10 to 15% is invested in mid cap and around 5% is invested in large cap. So flexi cap funds are also relatively not too risky, but compared to pure large caps, they are definitely a little bit on riskier side. The third type of fund that you can consider under the core portfolio are called what we can say is tax saver fund. Now the tax saver fund, or they are also called ELSS, equity linked saving schemes, they are the same as the flexi cap fund in terms of investment hypothesis. Means the tax saver funds also invest in all types of companies, all size of companies, pharma, once again manufacturing, large cap, mid cap, small cap, there is no constraint. But the difference is that as far as tax saver funds are concerned, there is a lock-in period of 3 years. You cannot basically go for redemption until 3 years are completed after your investment. While in case of flexi cap fund, there is no lock-in period like that. At the same time, the money that you invest in tax saver fund will give you deduction under the ITC, which is not available in flexi cap. Okay, so for me, flexi cap and tax saver funds are same except their lock-in period and tax treatment, tax deduction treatment. At the time of redemption, obviously the tax treatment is same. One more category that you can consider under your what we can say core portfolio is called multi-cap fund. So in multi-cap fund, the difference with the flexi cap and multi-cap, between flexi cap and multi-cap, is that as far as a multi-cap fund is concerned, SEBI has made it compulsory that the fund manager must invest. As far as multi-cap is concerned, the first fund manager must invest 25% in large cap, 25% in mid cap, and 25% in small cap. While in flexi cap, there is no force, or there is no pressure, or there is no, you can say, binding of hands of a fund manager. Fund manager can express himself freely. In case of multi-cap, the fund manager has to invest in 25% in large, 25 in mid, and 25 in small. And that's why multi-cap funds are little bit more riskier than flexi cap funds, and flexi cap funds are more riskier than large cap funds. These types of funds can constitute the part of your core portfolio. Apart from that, you can also consider large and mid cap category, where most of the money is invested in large and mid cap combined, and such funds are riskier compared to flexi cap, but they are almost slightly less riskier than multi cap, because the portion of small cap is expected to be lesser compared to multi cap. And generally I have seen that large and mid cap have provided very good returns, while the risk level is not that much high. So you can definitely consider this category of funds. Which fund product I will never recommend, obviously, but you can consider this category of fund for your core portion of the investment portfolio. And one more category that you can consider is the focused fund, FOCUSSED, focused. Now, what is the difference between a typical focused fund and a multi-cap or a flexi cap or a tax saver or a large and mid cap? Now, focused fund, as the name suggests, are much more focused. So in other typically diversified fund like flexi cap or multi cap or large and mid cap, what you will find is that generally the share, number of shares or number of scripts in which the fund invests are around 50 to 60. That's why the weightage per share is less. The amount of money invested in a single share are less, and that reduces the risk because the fund is inherently diversified. In case of focused fund, the plus and minus point is that it is highly focused. So the fund manager invests around typically in 30 companies. Now compared to 60 companies, if money is invested into the 30 companies, means there is a much more focus. The portfolio is much more concentrated. Now the difference in returns would depend on how this concentration works out. If the bet taken by the fund manager, if fund manager has taken bet on the 30 shares, believing that these 30 shares will do well compared to the 50 that are available in flexi cap, if these 30 do very well, the returns of a focused fund will be better than a flexi cap fund. But if we look at the downside, if the bet of the fund manager, if fund manager has taken a risk that okay, I will not invest in 50 shares but only in 30 as per the mandate of the fund, and if that bet, that what we can say forecast goes wrong, then it will also very bleed high. So in these 4-5 categories that we have referred to under the core portfolio, according to me, the riskiest type of scheme is the focused fund. Personally, if you ask me that which types of funds you should select for constructing your core portfolio, I would suggest 3 categories. One is large cap, second is I would say large and mid cap, large cap or tax saver if you want to save tax. Second is large and mid cap, and third is one flexi cap. So you can divide 33.33 rupees out of the 100 rupees that you would invest in the core portfolio. Now see, we started with the fact that there are two portions of the portfolio that we are going to construct. One is core, other is satellite. Now out of 100 rupees, total 100 rupees that you would like to invest, you should invest 80 rupees in this core portfolio. Rest 20 you should invest in satellite portfolio. This core portfolio is something which you should not touch for 3-5 years if it is working well. But satellite portfolio is totally different. Now if we compare this or take an analogy with cricket, in cricket there are players like Rahul Dravid or Cheteshwar Pujara who create a solid foundation, or players like even Virat Kohli who create a solid foundation, and all other players basically work around that. I mean, other players try to work out, try to make sure that the foundation provided by or the anchoring provided by someone like Virat Kohli may be used by others to attack more, or someone like Rahul Dravid or Cheteshwar Pujara may create a good anchoring, and that may allow the other players to play more attackingly. For example, someone like Virendra Sehwag can express himself freely if on the other side there is Rahul Dravid, because Virendra Sehwag knows if he gets out, even Rahul Dravid will make sure that at least one side is taken care of, one wicket is taken care of. Fine. The same way, your core portfolio is like Rahul Dravid. It will make sure that overall your portfolio works well, that it progresses with the economy, that there is not too much risk. But then the problem with core is that its returns are also kept on upper side, because the amount of risk that is less with the core portfolio, the amount of potential return will also be less. So if we want to kick our portfolio in terms of return, if you want to create that extra bit of returns, extra bit of alpha in our portfolio, then we should add some risk, we should take some calculated risk, and that's where satellite portfolio comes into picture. If you add money in satellite portfolio, the good part is that satellite portfolio will add that extra notch of returns into your overall portfolio. So someone like Shahid Afridi or Virendra Sehwag or Sanath Jayasuriya, would come out and would simply try to work through their way. If they succeed, that's fine. If they fail, then also it's fine. Today, if you see, Rohit Sharma probably does the same job. Fine. Now, what kinds of funds can be included in what we can say is satellite portfolio or satellite portion of the portfolio? So the first category is small cap. The second category is mid cap. Now, some experts may say that if a person has high risk taking ability, if a person has high risk taking capability, then even mid and small cap can also be constituted as a part of core. If someone can wait out for a long time, because the problem with mid and small cap mutual funds is that once they fall, it takes some long time to make a comeback, because they also rise fast compared to market. At the same time, they also fall fast. Okay, you can say their beta is high or their volatility is high compared to typical large cap share. So theoretically, still, if you say that, let us say you invest in small cap, then what should be done is ideally that you should know that now small cap cycle will start, that now small caps will do well. So when small caps start doing well, theoretically you invest, let's say 1 lakh rupees in that, and once the cycle is about to be over, you book the profit. So what happens is, because they rise very fast, small caps or mid caps rise very fast, you will be able to make that extra returns over and above your large cap or flexi caps returns. Okay, so that is one thing. Now obviously anything that can go up fast can also fall very fast, so obviously there is a large amount of risk that we take. But because we have invested in a core portfolio, and I'm sure we must have invested, the investor must have invested in gold or other FD or other products also, because you are well diversified, even if your satellite portfolio takes a hit, then also the overall return will not suffer too much. But if it succeeds, then it will definitely uplift the overall portfolio. So you can consider small cap, mid cap, generally in satellite only, but I believe if you are able to take risks, you can consider mid cap in core also. For small cap, I would still say that one should go with satellite only, and one should basically invest money and not really stay invested for too long a time, because small caps are too volatile in nature. Okay. The other type of typical funds that you can still consider, okay, if you say that you will keep mid cap and small cap in satellite, then obviously there is still one category of fund that should only be considered for satellite, and that is called what we can say is thematic fund, or some people also call them, I would think, sectoral funds. Fine. So these types of funds invest only in a particular sector, say manufacturing, banking, pharma, information technology, infrastructure, defense, and blah blah. Fine. Now see, these funds, thematic funds, especially thematic funds and sectoral funds, are not the funds where you should do SIP. Generally, in these funds, you should invest a lump sum when the cycle of that the industry or sector is going to start, and you should book profit when the cycle is going to get over. Generally, the economy works in cycles. Okay, every cycle is around of 7 years. So, if a particular, so for example, a lot of people say, once again, not an investment advice. A lot of people believe that manufacturing cycle or pharma cycle is about to start or has started, and that's why you see that a lot of people are now chasing the mutual funds of pharma or manufacturing sector. If you think that it is there, then there is no point in doing SIP. If you think that XYZ sector is going to do well, then you select the thematic fund, you put some money, big amount, and then it is going to get over, you book the profit. But for that, you need knowledge of economics. You should be able to understand the macros, you should be able to understand the dynamic of a particular sector, and or you should have a service of a SEBI registered RIA, so that you can time your entry and exit. So it is not for the faint hearted. Fine. Overall, you should put 80 rupees in core, 20 rupees in satellite. And once again, I am sure you have basically noted down the categories that you can consider to invest in core and satellite. I am sorry the video went on for a long time, but then the topic was little bit complex. I tried to simplify it as much as possible. I chose not to use PPT because this one-to-one interaction may be more effective, is the feedback I have got from my learned audiences. So thank you very much for listening to me. A very long video, sorry for that. Good night.